ask most gamers who were around for the Xbox 360, and Red Ring of Death aside, odds are most of them will share a lot of fond memories with you. And the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion generated plenty of those memories for a lot of Xbox 360 owners, and I'm one of them. I worked at Official Xbox magazine at the time, and for whatever reason, the hugely successful port of the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind to the original Xbox just never quite hooked me. But right from the jump, Oblivion, which was initially planned to be a day one launch title for the second Xbox, if you weren't aware, it did grab me.
Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
We did multiple cover stories on Oblivion leading up to its launch. Hey, the screenshots alone back then blew everybody away, and I eagerly volunteered for each trip out to Bethesda in sleepy Rockville, Maryland. Then, when it finally came time to review Oblivion, and this is back in the days when exclusive reviews were a common accepted thing and we had exactly that at OXM, I eagerly jumped at the chance.
He can help us. He must help us.
I returned to Rockville one more time and holed up in a conference room in Bethesda's basement for 4 days. I spent 4 consecutive and glorious 11-hour days, almost literally living in Cyrodiil, spending almost every waking moment inside the stunning, wide-open, next-gen medieval fantasy world. Before I boarded my return flight home, I had clocked 44 hours before I sat down to write OXM's 9.5 out of 10 review of Oblivion, which, by the way, I wholeheartedly stand by to this day.
Yeah!
It was just an incredible game filled with gripping quests. Anybody remember the Dark Brotherhood? Of course you do. Off the beaten path surprises like the unicorn, if you know, you know, and so much more. Now, because I was playing a submission build of the game when I was at Bethesda, meaning a mostly finished version of the game on an Xbox 360 debug kit rather than a regular retail console, it meant I had to start over when I got my final boxed disc copy that I'd already put about 2 full real-life days into. Well, I dropped another 130 or so hours into Oblivion without hesitation, so it's probably no surprise that I am absolutely thrilled that it's being remastered and re-released on modern platforms. In fact, I'm kinda envious of the whole generation of younger gamers who grew up with Skyrim, and thus, that is the Elder Scrolls for them. Because for them, the just-released remaster of the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion will be the first new mainline Elder Scrolls game for them since Skyrim released, for the first of many, many times, over 13 years ago.
In their tongue, he's Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
While franchise fans of all ages continue to wait for the Elder Scrolls VI, which is probably another 4 to 5 years away. Although if I'm being honest, I doubt Oblivion will hit the same way for them as it did for me back in March of 2006, because for starters, it's a 2-decade-old game. Now, side note, I want to give a shout out to Bethesda for delivering this Oblivion remaster this week, instead of making us wait an entire extra year when Oblivion will hit its far more elegant-sounding 20th anniversary rather than the 19th anniversary that just passed. But other games have built upon what Oblivion did, including several by Bethesda itself. There was Fallout 3, of course Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Starfield. And then second, Oblivion just doesn't pack the same visual punch that it did back in 2006, when I would argue that it was the first true next-gen game of the HD era that was ushered in by the Xbox 360.
Take that!
Now, obviously, the remaster looks much better than the original release. That's the point, of course, but it doesn't stand head and shoulders above nearly every other game as something you've never seen before, which it did back in 2006. By definition, or at least in practice, remasters aim to make an older game look modern on current platforms. It's kind of a sharp contrast to a proper remake, a la Resident Evil, which carries the expectation of starting completely from scratch and in turn looking as good or better than anything else on the modern market. In 2006, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion was the right game at the right time. By taking full advantage of HD televisions and expanding the scope and scale of what gamers could expect from an open-world game, it was a punch in the face to console gamers who, up to that point, had spent their entire gaming lives seeing their interactive worlds through an interlaced 640 by 480 television. Although, speaking of punches in the face, do need to give a shout out to a game that dropped just prior to Oblivion's March release, and that was in February. EA put out Fight Night Round 3, which was jaw-droppingly gorgeous itself.
What action! He knocks his opponent down yet again!
My memories of Oblivion are plenty, because it was a world with so much to discover and so much to do. For you first-time Oblivion players with this remaster, let me give you a little recommendation. Either blast through the main quest as quickly as possible, or save it until you've exhausted every last side quest and other open-world activity. Why do I say that? Well, the Oblivion gates will start randomly spawning and pestering you once you start down the main quest's path, so for my money, it's best to seal them off straight away, and to do that, you gotta complete the main quest line. Anyway, the technological leap made from Morrowind to Oblivion might not ever happen again, though I suppose if we wait long enough for The Elder Scrolls VI, maybe it actually will. But at the very least, playing Oblivion Remastered just won't present such a staunch difference from any release of Skyrim, and for that, I suppose those same younger gamers who grew up with Skyrim won't get quite what I had in terms of that next-gen impact. But no matter if you're playing Oblivion for the first time, or, like me, you've clocked hundreds of hours with it already, its fully realized medieval fantasy world and the surprises and adventures contained within it have always made it my favorite Elder Scrolls game, and I'm thrilled it's back, even if its surprise release was spoiled and leaked many times over before it finally showed up again.
And close shut the jaws of Oblivion.